Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and yes, we're in the familiar surroundings of the YouTube channel. We're back to normal finally. I've got the microphone, I've got a comfortable chair, back support, everything I need to make a YouTube video at hopefully the highest of quality. You can be the judge of that, but it's good to be back. It's good to get into things because it's the last day of November. Tomorrow it's December the 1st, and yeah, it's still a month to go, but I think we can finally start talking about the January transfer window. So let's use that Celtic transfer talk intro, shall we? Welcome back then to Celtic Transfer Talk. It's been a while. It's the sort of flagship series on this channel, maybe apart from the podcast series. It's the one that brings in the most people. And today I thought I was going to sit down and I'm going to talk about what I want to see from Celtic in the January window. We're in for a packed December, and you know, this video could change completely by the time January comes. But I thought to myself, let's sit down and talk about the three things that I think we need to focus on heading into that January transfer window, because I think we do need to bring in a few more players. We had a magic transfer window in the summer, but did we do enough? I don't think so. I still think we need to add depth. If you looked at the bench at the weekend there against Aberdeen, it wasn't great. It wasn't a pretty bench to look at. James Forrest seemed to be the only real option on there that could change the course of a football game. And outside of him, there wasn't much. I think we do need to add some depth to this team and some creativity, especially to this football team. So in this video, I'm going to go through the three positions and give three options to who I think, what areas I think are the priorities for this January transfer window. Now, I know everyone won't agree. People will be saying different things, different positions. But just from what I have picked up on this season and what I've been watching of Celtic this season, I think these are the three areas that we should look at first for bringing in some reinforcements. And quickly, just to reiterate, it's all opinion, and it's all kind of up in the air who we can and can't sign. You know, I am not a scout at the end of the day. I don't know who's realistic for Celtic and who's not. I don't know who we're looking at. These are just three names that I'm going to pop in there as alongside the position itself. But I think the main focus of this video is the area rather than the player. So let's start at the left-back position. I think this is the most obvious of the areas we need to improve on this season. We've been without an actual recognised left-back for the majority of this campaign. Greg Taylor was, sidelined with an injury a couple of months ago, and we're still yet to see him return. I think he's close to returning now, but I still think on top of Greg Taylor, we can do better. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Greg Taylor. I'm also not the biggest hater of Greg Taylor, but I think there's one thing that most fans will agree on in saying that we can do better. I think that there are better left-back options out there for Celtic Football Club. And I think Greg Taylor's a great option for Celtic, and I think he's shown that over the last sort of year and a half in particular, or the last couple of years, that he can have some great moments, he can have some good games, but alongside that in the last year and a half, he's also had some weaker performances, and he's also struggled with injuries every now and then. We've not been set up for that. It doesn't look as though Bolly Bolingoli is in favour at Celtic. I don't think his career is going to go much further at the club. Liam Scales has done absolutely nothing since signing for the club. He's not been used in any capacity, really. Montgomery doesn't look as though he'll come back into the fold anytime soon. And also, he's not an actual left-back. So we really do need another option in there. We need to bring in someone who can be there when Greg Taylor isn't. We've been using Josip Juranovic so much at left back that we've barely seen him play in his actual position of right back. And I know people might spin a positive out of that and saying, well, it's allowed Ralston to kick on and play well, but at the end of the day, we should be prioritising playing players in the positions, their actual positions, and allowing them to grow in there. And ultimately, I think that Juranovic will be better at the right-hand side than what he is on his unnatural left-hand side. So we really do need to prioritise getting a left-back in this window. It was actually one of the biggest priorities I thought of the last window, and we did nothing. So let's see if we'll do something in the January window, but who could it be? I say who could it be as if this isn't the obvious one. We know who it's going to be. I think it looks as though Rio Hatate, or is it Hatate? Yeah, Hatate will be joining Celtic Football Club. It looks almost close to being a done deal. That's been all the talk over the last few days, and I'm hoping that it is the signing that we make for Celtic this transfer window. We're signing for basically nothing. His contract expires at the end of the January transfer window, and I think he's a great option with the versatility that he offers to a football field. He's someone who can play in the middle of the park as a central midfielder, and someone who can play at left back where he's primarily played for his club over the past season. I like the look of him. I think he'll be great, and the fact that he can play in the middle of the park and can play in central midfield shows just definitely how well he'll fit into Ange's system. He likes an inverted fullback. He likes a fullback who can get into the middle of the park. We've heard Ange speak about that firsthand, and with his experience of playing in both the left back position and in the middle, that's sort of a kind of dream come true, and that's sort of the kind of player that I think you'll want. Also, I'm just all for raiding this Japanese market. 24 years old, he won the J-League this season with Kawasaki. I think it's Frontiers. I know it's Kawasaki is the city anyway. He won the league just, I think, very recently after 29 appearances, 5 goals and 3 assists. A very talented player to say the least. But the biggest story about Ryu Hatate is, and it was one that's broke over the sort of past 24 hours, and more has came out on it today, is it looks as though Celtic are pushing for this deal to be done as quickly as possible, and they're trying to make sure that he's through the doors for that game against Rangers on the 2nd of January. Now, I'm not too sure how everything will go in terms of isolation, quarantine and stuff, all that kind of stuff, but Japan are, I think, shutting their borders off. So it's one that Celtic will want to get done as quickly as possible. If we can have the guy through the doors and ready for the 2nd of January, that would be magic. But I think this is a player that is going to walk right into the Celtic team and be that starting left-back option. Right, position number 2, I think Celtic need to work on. I'm going to say the central defensive midfield position. Now, I'll give a quick disclaimer. Recently, I think Nir Bitton has done a fantastic job in there. A really good job in there. I think he's coming on to a really good game. His top performances, he's looked as though he's got slippers and a cigar out. But I think beyond him, you know, the options aren't too great. James McCarthy, I'm still not the biggest fan of. I don't quite know if he's going to ever be the quality that we need for an Ange Postecoglou style of play. Ismail Assoro, I don't really know what's going to be happening with him. He has fell right out of favour as well. We've rarely seen him as of late. And Callum McGregor has played a lot in that role, but I personally think that McGregor should be probably a step ahead of that. Now, I know on the podcast, Ryan McGinley doesn't tend to agree with that. He prefers him in behind, but I think McGregor being ahead of someone better would be better for Celtic. I like Bitton and I'm happy for him to keep playing in that role as much as possible, but I still think we need more options. I really do. I think it's a position we're light in, and we've noticed the difference this season when we've had to change it up. We've noticed the difference when I think McCarthy's had to play, or Soros had to play. When McGregor got injured a couple of months ago, we noticed that difference. When Bitton went off against Leverkusen the other night, we noticed that difference. I think we need someone of quality in there. I think we need someone who's going to be good at distributing the ball, doing it quickly. For me, McCarthy was far too slow against Aberdeen with it. He was holding on to the ball too long. He looked sort of lackadaisical and clunky. I think you need someone who's going to be able to turn with it and spread the ball out and move it to the wings or move it to the players in front of them in a quick fashion, something that suits what Ange wants to do. So I would like to see us bring in a CDM if it's possible. And I think there's one guy out there that Celtic would be absolutely brain dead if they want to take it seriously and try and sign him. I've spoke about this guy on the channel before because I think it's one that Celtic really need to look into, and I would urge Celtic badly to try and look into this and try and get something done about it. Patrick Berg of Bodo Glimt. There's not much else to say, but this guy's the real... He just looks like a player. Everything that I've seen of him, all of the clips, all of the sort of... everything. Every sort of minute I've managed to gather of watching him play, he just looks like a player. And he would be, I think, the perfect CDM for both Celtic and Ange Postecoglou. Now, I've spoken about him in videos before, so I don't want to repeat myself of everything I've said about his traits, about how he'd fit into Ange's system. I don't want to repeat all myself again, but let me just update you on his stats to this point now over the past season. In all competitions, 30 appearances, 8 goals, 9 assists. 8 goals and 9 assists from the CDM position. This isn't a winger we're talking about. This is a central defensive midfielder. 8 goals, 9 assists. That is the sort of distribution, and that's the sort of involvement I want in a CDM at Celtic Football Club. He has to be signed for me. He's been fantastic. He's been playing in the Conference League for Bodo Glimt, where they are just defying expectation. They're top of their group right now. They beat Roma. They absolutely destroyed Roma, may I say. And he was a part of that. It's just the top tier of Norwegian football, one of the better teams up there. I think this is a guy that Celtic would be daft not to look at and not to sign. Now, I don't know how strong the links are. We've seen his name floated around a couple of times with Celtic and online and on Twitter and such. I don't know how strong the actual links are, but get it done, get Patrick Berg in. He would be the perfect CD. I mean, I think he'd walk in being one of the strongest players in our team. And the final position that I think Celtic should maybe look into, and I don't know if this is one that a lot of the viewers will particularly agree on, but I think we should look for maybe a central attacking midfielder, someone to play in behind the striker, and I think maybe you can even stretch it out to a centre forward sort of role. I would like someone who is capable of playing in there. Now, I know we've got Tom Rogic, I know we've got David Turnbull, and those two guys in particular are the names that jump out straight away, and they are top quality players. And I think that Tom Rogic has been solid this season. I think Turnbull's been anonymous in a lot of the season, but he's had decent games here and there. But I feel like we can strengthen. I feel like we can have one more option that would maybe take us another level. And I think that's something we should maybe look at. I don't think it's the biggest priority. I think that the other two positions that I've gave are probably bigger, but I feel like there is something we can do in that area to enhance our chances and to enhance our ability of scoring goals. I know the system we play has seen us have that sort of central defensive midfielder, then two sort of central midfielders. We've not really had that number 10 because we were complaining for so long that Turnbull and Rogic couldn't play together. But I think that if we bring in someone who is more natural at playing just behind a striker, I know that's what Rogic and Turnbull should be doing, but they've not really shown it in a great amount this season. I think if we could bring in someone else who can do it and give them maybe a kick up the backside, that could be a great addition to the squad as well. And we've already seen someone linked with the club who can maybe come in and do that. That's right, we're heading back over to Japan, we're heading to the J-League, and the guy that we've seen linked with the club before, a centre-forward type player, DAIZEN Maeda, I think that's how it's pronounced. I've been here and I've done this, I should know how to pronounce his name on the channel by now, but I think that he would be the sort of option that we could bring in if we're looking for someone in that area. More of a centre-forward than an attacking midfielder, but nonetheless, I think that he could play in behind Kyogo, and I think that he could be a fantastic sort of partner for him, especially of course with the Japanese link, another Japanese international just like Kyogo Furuhashi. All competitions this season, 39 appearances, 22 goals. So a guy that also knows how to find the back of the net. Now, I think if you take two players who are some of the top scorers in the J-League, like Kyogo and Maeda, I think that's a combination for success right there. I really do. I think that works. And I would like to see it brought in. And I think you've also got yourself the option, if you bring in Maeda, he can play in behind the striker. But I think if you also need a goal, you're desperate in a game maybe, and you're trying to break the deadlock, you can maybe put two up front. And you can have Maeda and Kyogo playing together. And I think that works. I think that could be a good dynamic as well. He can also play on the left-hand side, may I suggest. So you're adding depth for there and behind Jota. But more importantly, that sort of in behind the striker role. I would like Maeda, I really would, and he's another option that I think from that J-League Celtic would be daft to pass up. And that does it then. That's the end of the video. 3 players that I think could be great additions to Celtic Football Club this January transfer window. I know we've got a month to go, things will change, stories will develop, I'll be here to cover it all, we'll be covering it in the podcast as well, but as we head into December, it's time to get excited about that transfer window amongst all the football that we've got this month as well. So yeah, if you enjoyed, make sure to hit like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you all next time.